Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sculpture Lab with another episode with our brother Amadi Diop. How you doing today, brother?
Doing fantastic.
Uh, welcome back, man. I don't know if I should welcome you, or you should welcome me because we're using.
Both ways.
Thank you.
Both ways. Mikasa Sukasa.
Claro, mi casa su casa. Thank you. And this is like an extension of the conversation we had in the previous episode with the same topic with some prejudices that we would like to bring clarification to, which are some people believe African Americans are less hardworking compared to Africans. We kind of brought up the topic, but today we want to get in depth with it. Just by showing like the opportunities that some of the African were lucky to have, and some of them know it, some of them may not. And I think we need to dive into that. Do you think, Mr. Amadou, it is a fair comparison making that statement?
Yeah, well, I think we're starting with the fact that some people have prejudices, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is not things that we think.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that some people may have prejudices about, right?
Mm-hmm.
But is it fair? No, it's not fair because we comparing apples to oranges. What I mean by that is that for most immigrants, when they look at America, they look in America as the land of opportunity. You know, it's a great land that compared to where they're coming from sometime, in some cases, this country presents more opportunities and a prospect for a brighter future.
Mm-hmm.
We see it. We see, but I think it's grander than that. I mean, and it's more general than that because we see people from all over the world that actually come to America with the same aspiration. But we have to realize that for African Americans in general, this land, America, hasn't been a land of opportunity. It has been a land of oppression.
So the immigrants see opportunity, but some Americans see oppression.
See, some African Americans have seen oppression, have seen a systemic racism. They have seen segregate. They have seen discrimination. They have seen police brutality. They have seen opportunities taken away from them because they are black. They have seen so many different things, and also we shall not forget that this country has been built on the backs of Africans, African Americans. So we cannot say that.
Just to join you, I was just doing field research, and as you just say, if you take the case of most of Africans that come here, it is the cream of the African youth. So you cannot take that and compare it to the whole community of the African American, because there is an elimination process when it comes to selecting the African people and any other nation. Yeah.
And I think some people do not realize that. I mean, most people do. But I do have customers here who ask me, "Hey, how did you come here?" Because their reality is that they crossed. You know, they crossed countries. They walked to come here. Some do not realize that Africans do actually have to take a plane. I mean, it sounds very basic, right? But it is not so.
It's not basic.
You know, common sense is not so common, as we say. So, to join what you're saying, the visa process is a very daunting and selective program that that really is served as a brain drain.
Of course.
Either don't say it,
No.
but that's a they're selecting, like you say, uh, the best out of the prospects at least. But out of whoever gets
Request.
permitted to come to the United States, yeah, you best believe that they feel a certain criteria
Yeah.
that from the get-go will benefit the USA.
For when they process you for a visa, they're gonna check like your criminal record. Make sure you have no record of crime, at least on your paperwork. They usually pick the people that have the best education. Like, so if you have a high school degree in Africa, it is compared to college +2 or +3,
Absolutely.
depending on the discipline.
Discipline.
And I think the bigger thing is identity. Identity is big, because if you come from a culture where I would say black is majority, I think it can have an ascendance, a psychological ascendance to you that like you're not gonna be dreaming to become something, and you like you questioning it because you're black.
But what you're touching on is talking about the role models that we had growing up versus the role. I think they're there. I think the role models in all aspects are there. It's just that what is being, like you say, put at the forefront, what is being idolized. I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the athletes, and then we're seeing the entertainers more, like the music entertainers and stuff like that. But I think in all walks of life, you will see successful African woman, African American woman, and African American man. Now the question is access. Access. It's what it is. Education or instruction, the ability to read books, the ability to have access to news that will expose the children to that wide range of successful African Americans, so that you can draw onto role models. It was very easy for us growing up because, like you say, that's why we were fighting to have diversity in all different positions in society.
One of the other things that I was looking into is, and I think it is big. That alone, if you were talking about it, it could be like a 2 hours, 3 hours topic. Is the fact that like in Africa, like the sense of family, it is a big motivation to a lot of immigrants, and I'm pretty sure many other countries. Because I'm not talking about even your kids or your wife, but your mom, your father, your brothers. You want them to make sure that they are all right, because you are having access to resources that they may not have, and you want to provide for yourself while you are here, but you want to provide for them.
Absolutely.
And I think that alone can be a good source of motivation.
Right.
And unfortunately, drug and weapons has caused a lot of dysfunction of like certain African American families. And the way that we are taught to grow up in a society is you got to learn to provide for yourself, because you have to be autonomic. But also, if you can provide for yourself, then you can have a family to take care of.
Now, this is good, because you touching on, I think, on that's a caricature, and that's a how do you call it, what we're talking about? That's a prejudice. What you say, drugs and what?
Weapons.
That's not everybody. We did say some, but for some, that's their way of earning. The same way we might think that our way of earning is getting a business or getting a job. For some, that's the shit that's how they earn.
It's just in a small scale, and it is depicted in a negative way. But these people are using the weapon, but they're not making it. And there are people on the top who are making their money off weapon, billions of dollars. But those people are not targeted. So, like you say, it is a caricature. I totally agree, and unfortunately, it has sent a lot of brothers away that could be good fathers, good mentors, but also it has like taken a lot of life and broken some families, like where we left, which is the incarceration, the mass incarceration. That alone is a big obstacle when it comes to finding a job, because if anybody's run your criminal background and see that you have been a felon,
Sometimes,
yeah, your chances of being hired are reduced.
are reduced. And this is why it's so important to have people, African Americans or Africans, or black people or minorities, to be in positions of power, of position of hiring, because I have been in those positions, and I have hired people who have been in jail,
And I
people
think
who have been felons. Why? Because in an interview, I can listen and I can go beyond that. That's why, you know, I give people second chances, not because I want to give them second chances, but also because I see a potential in somebody that can be of value for my business or the business at that time, because they may have something that they have learned in while they were in.
we're not in jail, but our brains are in jail, and that's the
That's
next
correct.
topic we're getting into.
That's correct.
Because most of us, when we see felon, we're not trying
right.
to get to the root cause. We're not trying to study his behavior like you just explained, but you just jump
His values at this
exactly,
point, because his values might have changed.
exactly,
right?
and jump right into a conclusion like I will never give him an interview.
So we do have some people who get in jail for good reasons. You know, like fighting for civil rights. That's a good reason, right? But we have people who go in for bad reasons but come out elevated human being.
And you, like you mentioned, you have to give them a chance. When you see the opportunities,
But I think it's just a sensitivity to being able to really listen to people and hear them out, and find what is the best outcome that can happen, and have hope in human beings.
and also what is the worst outcome that can happen too, because if someone is rejected from getting a job several times because he is a felon, he can be back to the street and robbing,
That's correct.
and your business may be at risk.
Affected by that. Yeah.
So
That's another way of looking at it.
So we just have to, like you say, learn to understand people.
And what is the object of? I don't know if we're going on a tangent, but what is the object of incarceration? Is it to rehabilitate people to come back to society, or is it to enslave them? Now we got the amendment that supposedly abolished slavery. Really didn't abolish
No.
slavery. It said that unless it is in case of criminal persecution,
That's right.
slavery is not abolished.
Yes, and I think that makes the slavery industry move towards the
To
prison
the
system.
prison system.
Brainwash,
Conditioning, yes.
conditioning,
Yes.
because perception is caused by your conditioning.
Absolutely.
Whoever conditioning you controls your way of seeing things.
That's correct.
How does brainwashing affect this whole situation? In your opinion?
This is a pretty broad subject I like to think about, and I'll try to synthesize it. So it's paradigms. It's about paradigms. So what is a paradigm? Paradigm is a set of beliefs, right? So if you have a set of beliefs already, and so that constitutes your paradigm. So if you are working with a certain paradigm, most likely you train to only watch out for elements that either dispute or confirm those beliefs.
Okay.
So the question now comes to who determines those beliefs? And that's where you start coming into the game of conditioning. Okay, so that's why I was talking about, if you are a child raising a child, then we have an issue. Now you have to be an adult. Like the moment you have a child, I think that's the moment where you have to really take on the responsibility as an adult. So if there are issues personally, you have to address those issues. Hopefully you address them before you have the child, but a lot of the time that's not a luxury that most have. So I hope I'm making sense.
You are.
But
you carry on.
And I'm coming from references of of the souls, right? So every human being has a soul, and every soul has an age, or a soul age. So you have some souls that are toddlers, infant, teenagers, or senior. So I can be 50 with an infant soul. So how am I going to deal with a family? What kind of leadership will I offer to my family? Those are some issues that underlie. This is not a scholastic, opinion, but this is what I look into when I'm dealing with people. As I have hired employees, or in my relationships, I try to sense that, because if you have somebody who's wise, who's a senior soul, the conversations are good. Usually they're leaders, whether they're female or male, they're leaders in whatever they do, right? And the women usually have already a really built-in propensity to be leaders, because a mother to their child is like,
that's a leader already right there.
Going back to the conditioning, it has a lot of bearings. It's societal. It's the country, the way it's designed. It's the history, and if we're not aware of what's going on around us, why is it that most of the things that bother us is set there, and why? Then it's hard. Like there's an experiment called the flea. The flea in a jar experiment.
The flea in a jar experiment.
Flea in a jar experiment. So you put some fleas in a jar, and you put the lid on. Now a flea can jump 6 feet high. Okay, all you'll hear is tick 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 tick, because they're trying to jump. Like the first moment you put them in the jar, but after a certain amount of time, you will see that they will jump just enough not to hit the lid. Because the more they hit it, it hurts. They're like, okay, we have hit the ceiling, and after a while, they don't. You can take off the jar,
and they don't jump.
They will not jump out of the jar. They will not, and yet they still have the capacity to jump 6 feet up in the air and get out. But because of that, they're not. Now, you leave them there for a couple of days, and they have offspring. Guess what? The offspring, who can still jump 6 feet up in the air, will jump the same pattern as their parents. As a matter of fact, now you can put it upside down, take the jar out, and there's no jars, there's no lid, and the fleas will not get out of the same pattern. And now the offspring and parents are flying the same pattern. That's the conditioning. Now, put it into the human perspective.
I would say if my ancestors have worked for decades without being paid, and you are calling me lazy, I am tired. I'm not lazy.
I'm done. Working for free.
That's where I was going.
Yes.
And not that alone, but the funds that was collected is what's the economy of this country. It is a struggle for a black person to have a business loan, to have,
With good credit, by the way.
yes, and the credit system also is just another obstacle to some people. And even if you have a good credit, it has changed now. But back in the days, like there are suburb areas that you will not allow as a black person to buy a house.
Lining.
So the community in which you grow up, if you don't grow up in a suburb, you are in the project area or the areas that the house doesn't have, like the district determine the school you go to.
Absolutely.
And the school you go to and the job that will determine also the job around you and they out then they wage, the quality and the wage that they pay you. If you have a shop in some areas, you will tend to pay more per hour than if you have it in some other areas.
Absolutely.
So all those things combined together, these people are not lazy. They are mentally disabled, if I would put it in perspective. What do you think?
You said it well. You said it well. And that's part of the system that is destroying. So that's why let's go back to the family. Now you're not making enough money, and you have to care for a family. Now for us, again, we're looking at opportunity. For them, we're looking at oppression. We're looking at lack of opportunity. We're looking at you putting me down. We're looking at different situation than somebody who's thinking, like some of them have. Some of them have come from very low income family and have made it to the top, right? But that's maybe an exception in that community, but in our community it will be the norm, because when we come and nothing
Stopping
and
us.
nobody gonna stop us.
So I'm pretty sure there are many other aspects that we could talk about. And everybody that is watching this, please give us your comment, because this topic could be ongoing, and that's our goal. So whatever is your feedback, we just want to get respectful feedback, because we only carry positivity here.
That's right.
If you can do us that favor, please leave a comment. Give us your point of view, because if you are watching, you can say something.
Join the conversation.
And we will be coming up soon with another episode where we will be talking about how can we bring these two communities to one, because it is one community, because we have the same ancestors, we just come in different time and different terms. Stay tuned. Thank you. Thank you, Amadou, for your time. And
Thank you.
We got some more work to do, brother.
Well, thank you so much for having me.